A very good afternoon. I think I'll be putting all the participants from lunch and a 15 minutes presentation on networking. But I will take briefly in 15 minutes, and I think I'm still available during lunch so we can have more discussion on that. Thank you, Vivian, Elka, for inviting me here. And I'm representing this organization broadly in this slide. I just wanted to mention two important components. We have heard many participants, speakers, collaborators, some donors here over many consultations that we've had over the years. We spoke about collaboration. We spoke about partnership. But at the same time, I think some of the speakers in the morning also mentioned very clearly about two things. One, the moment we go out of a conference room, do we really partner? Do we really collaborate? Or do we compete? That's the biggest question that 26 years of my life that I came into this field when I was just 17 when I started the organization. I've seen day in and day out many consultations, many meetings. We speak about networking, we speak about collaboration, we speak about partnership, we speak about initiative. No doubt, each one of us sitting here have spent many years, some more, some less, some have just started. But at the end of the day, we go back and we look for resources to engage in our fight towards human trafficking. And that is a continuous process, whether within the country, within a state, within across the border. What we as an organization realize when we use the word networking, it is actually a word called partnership. When we talk about networks, I can spell out numbers of networks that I, as an organization representative, has been part of. It has come, it has gone. It has sustained because of different support agencies and donors. Some has collapsed, some has emerged and re-emerged. Sometimes networking has been completely initiated because of a project-driven initiative at different levels. Sometimes networking has emerged because of the passion that organization has been in this field for a very long time. But do this network really survive? Do we really actually do real networking? I think that is a question that each one of us sitting here today will have to ask that question personally to ourselves, either as founders of organization, directors, management head, people who are really working. Today is World Day Against Human Trafficking, where we take this commitment and pledge over and over again across the world that we have to end slavery. I'm glad to really be learning a little bit in the last 2 days of the wonderful program of My Choices. Thank you, Elga, for actually inviting me. I tried to spend little time with everybody just to really grasp, spending more reading of your website over the 2 days, just to really understand how does our learning, how does our experiences networking can actually facilitate a collaboration or can engage a collaboration, not just in the area that we are working, because when we talk about human trafficking, there's no boundaries. So we cannot say we work in one geographical zone and we don't work in another geographical zone. Geographical zone is normally divided by the resources that each organization have. Initiative and innovation comes about because of the resources that we have. So the topic given to me today is called networking. And how do we really facilitate real networking on the ground as we move out from this ancient, get consultation that we have here today that's being initiated by My Choices. My team today, one is speaking at the UNODC in Delhi. I'm here because I committed to come down here. Another team is in another zone, so we are all in different zones. Interestingly, we were given the same topic, how exactly we're going to really merge these partnerships. So I just wanted to just run through, just briefly. I will not go into detail because availability of this information is on our website. As an organization, 30 years ago when I got in, I don't come from a human rights background, I come from a business background. And I completely come from that school of finance and, technically that work on what business model is all going to be the good way to really initiate anti-trafficking initiative. I brought in hands the journey that I learned from the ground and saw the various organizations that emerge over the years and who have struggled to work. Some of us still meet with each other, some of us are struggling, somebody of us sometimes are in the same platform talking about how do we collaborate. So our learning lesson is we facilitate collaborative engagement with service providers. Why? We realize that if we have to network, we need to really identify who the service providers who are actually engaging themselves in terms of what Dr. Sunita was mentioning yesterday, protection. Now, protection is one mechanism that after every rescue, whether it's done by the enforcement or collectively done by the NGOs together, you need that kind of protection. Do we really map that kind of service providers in each zone, in each area that is available? What is its capacity? And how do we really network in that? That's what Impulse does in most of the work that we have. Then comes the case management. We've heard previous speakers, IGM and the others, sharing their learning lessons, sharing their expertise, sharing all the skills about prosecution can only happen if there is proper case documentation. Each one of us knows that. If an FIR is weak, I think we heard our AHTU person speaking today, we don't get prosecution. Do all organizations in this sector have good documenters in their organization? Very limited. Let's be honest about that. Because it requires skills, it requires support, it requires finances to have the high quality people who really understand with a legal background. So how do we counter to network in that support system? So we came out with a case management system, which is called the Impulse Case Info Center software. It's a technology platform that emerged in 2012 when we got the World Prize for the best innovation of the work that we did from the World Bank. That's the first time that the World Bank really intervened into working on trafficking. And then we came out to ask that question. Here we have 1 million, and what do we do with that money? I was told by the World Bank, you can do anything with that money because it's a prize money that you got for the organization. So we came back and analyzed what do we give back from the learning lessons that we have engaged ourselves for many years in terms of networking with many organizations. We came up with a technology platform that addressed case documentation. Because we realized that when we network with different organizations in networking, we face one challenge is that the survivor of human trafficking go through a pressure of mental health when the same question is being asked over and over again by the first organization who rescued, the second organization who gives protection, the third organization, they have to do reintegration because there's no systematic processes. Two, we realized that after we integrate, with the support of the UNODC for many years under the TIP initiative, a curriculum at the Northeast Police Academy in the Northeast, is that many law enforcement are not very well trained in documentation as well, so they have a challenge. So sometimes if you're talking about training law enforcement, the number of training we might have imparted might not really be equipped or equivalent to help them write a proper FIR if somebody is going to the police station. So how do we really work towards providing that kind of a network between an NGO and a law enforcement, which today we work very, very closely with the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit. So we together collectively decided to use a 1 million, getting around 14 Director General of Police in the Northeast and other states of India. Mr. PM Nair was very instrumental to be part of the process with us, came up with a case management system. The case management system is a systematized process that will allow organization that will network together, not to repeat, not to overload, and to share the resources. The other one is provide a support system to stakeholders. Each one of us can tell many stories of experiences that we might have faced with enforcement, judiciary, and others. But at the end of the day, when we talk about country responding to human trafficking, whether India or our neighboring countries, Bangladesh, Nepal, we always talk about one thing, is sign the UN protocol, be engaged, let's work collectively, let's have a convergence. But then in the process of convergence, if we have to look at the link of networking, we need to see that does the stakeholders who we are collaborating, like the anti-human trafficking units, which emerged over years. When we started off, way back in 2014, they were called the nodal officers, nodal agency. Now the name has changed to anti-human trafficking units. The study we did, we worked very closely. We realized that we need to provide support system to the stakeholders because there are gaps within their system. So you have a government response, but there's a gap. You have NGO working in parallel, so how do we fit that gap? So that is how the networking processes has to be thought about if we're talking about networking or partnering. The other one is training. I think many of us spoke about training. But what kind of component of training one needs to design when you're actually providing a partnership or a collaboration of networking? So when I use the word networking, I think I still have this allergies that I call that we keep hearing about networking, but then does every one of us are comfortable to network with each other? Are we really comfortable? Because leaderships, when we talk about leadership roles, each one of us are always emerging in our own journey as leaders, whether it's men or women. Now, there's always this huge gender bias when we talk about people working in this field of anti-trafficking. How many men and how many women who leads is a question. Because we as an organization have always looked at 50-50. But in the 50-50, do India today have 50-50 women lead organization in the anti-slavery? No, we don't. So, I will not get into statistic. You can go to our website and read the statistic. But it's a question of consciousness. If we really have to come back, then the process of training both men and women in the whole process at different level is a very important part of partnership and the network where leaders come equally in countering the issue of human trafficking. That's what we as a process has been doing. Then sharing and exchange of technical expertise. So when we use the word technical expertise, we can list technical expertise. Our different speakers today spoke about different expertise. IGM has this expertise, My Choices has this expertise, Justice and Care has this expertise, Prajwala has this expertise. Now, how many of us are willing to actually come to a basket and say, let's share the expertise? Because expertise is an important element when we talk about partnering and networks. Because then we have to realize what our expertise and how do we really network. So here comes the model that allows a platform of sharing expertise. So expertise can come back for us as the 12 pillars, which is the 6 Ps and the 6 Rs. Now the 6 Ps and the 6 R emerge in my own personal journey with my team, and also the learning processes. It started with 3 Ps and 3 Rs, and then it went to 6 Ps and 6 Rs. Now, for me, today the 6 Ps and 6 Rs are very jargon, but you need this jargon to really get to the inside of what partnership is all about. Now, when we talk about partnership, that's where we realize that networking is not the initiative, it's partnering. Because when you partner, you actually collaborate, you actually bring a support system where you respect each other's boundaries of your network. When you say network, sometimes what happened in the network, it's a top to bottom approach where we say we have to form a network because we need to come together. Or it's a bottom to top where you say we have to have a network because we have to reach that agenda. But when we say partnership, we say our skill is being shared and we partner towards prevention, protection, policing, press, prosecution. And the action that we have is rescue, repatriation, reintegration, recompensation. And when we talk about these, we all have to agree with one thing, very, very, very important. We need, whether you call it networking, as the session is being defined for me today, or do we call it partnership, that we share the resources? Because if we have to share our resources, we have to get out from that comfort zone of our box, that we are not competing. We are actually collaborating. And if we're collaborating, then we have to ask an insight of ourselves as organization. Are we here because of projects, or are we here because of the word passion that is being repeated from morning again and again? I spent 26 years. If it was not passion, I'll not be standing here speaking the same thing after 26 years. But along with passion, you also need to be strategic in what can survive and what cannot survive, and what is possible and what is not possible. Every country goes through different political leadership. India is going through that, another country is going through that. Sometime, if we have to get a larger work done, we need the country to respond. And if we need country to respond, I think we need to be partnering and collaborating one voice, what exactly we want the country to do, so that at the end of the day, the leadership that each one of us sitting here and collaborating and trying to work with each other is enabling the government to respond and sustain an initiative to end slavery. So these are very, very important components when we talk. So for us, partnership is private and the public sector. Partnership is between partners that are in the platform with us and the judiciary, because these are partnerships which are very important in terms of component when it comes to addressing human trafficking. Prevention for us is going beyond. I think the school program is an prevention activities where education becomes a must in terms of giving choices not, to be dupe. But along with it, there has to be prevention that families at the ground are enabling their economic livelihood. Our learning lesson in the Northeast, we decided to actually tap 30,000 women livelihood initiative under an economic platform, because we realized that the migration that was happening from the region has happened because of the drop of employment, and also the fact that traditional skill has no more market. So there's come this huge gap. Skill India mission announced skilling the whole country. But at the same time, we're talking about women at the grassroots and women, the younger people who don't want to do traditional skill any longer. So what do we add? So we came up with an initiative where we talk about a hybrid model called the Impulse Social Enterprises that actually looks in terms of at least 30,000 women household run with a consistent market through our brand called Empower, which is available online. And we also started working with a corporate platform, Amazon, where they launch, the Amazon Saheli, which is a single window platform. Why do we need markets and corporates to come together? Because consistent marketing cannot happen by an NGO. Let's be very honest about it. If we run vocational skill, our vocational skill will not survive if there's no consistent market, So that is where, again, collaboration and partnership comes. So we cannot say, I as an NGO will do everything. I will do from production to markets. No, it doesn't happen. Then comes the protection. I'll not get more into that because here in protection, we work with partners who are offering shelters. We work with government who is offering shelter. We try to bring the support system, to understand how they can really change those whole processes. In fact, as I'm speaking here, we have a young girl from Meghalaya who's in Sunita's shelter home, and I was just giving a text that she would like to see me because I happen to be here. Now, collaboration means that if a shelter home is unavailable for a long term, then you have to look at having collaboration so that somebody is not out there being vulnerable. But protection is just not about shelter, it's also going beyond shelter. So policing is the other aspect that when we came up with the work that we started to work with Anti-Human Trafficking Unit, we started partnering by doing a lot of consultation, by looking at cross-border policing, by looking at training workshops, and also publication disseminations that we have created over the years to now is going more digital in manner because of the time and the requirement. The prosecution is, of course, a question. Many of us who are sitting here, I don't think have, strength as IGM, who have great lawyers. Of course, we work in collaboration with them from time again and depend on cases, but we work with Human Rights Law Network, Colin Gonsalves, that provide a lot of legal support in our system, because at the end of the day, the organization who was working on rehabilitation might not have the support to fight the case. So how do we have that platform who will continue to fight that case? So that's what we went through and realized, that we have to create, a basket, where we call it the networking basket or the partnership basket. But partnership is much more aligned in terms of leadership roles, because then people feel they are, working together. When they network, they said, okay, we are networking with you today, and tomorrow we might not be networking with you. But we say we partner, we feel important as human beings. As leaders, we feel, yes, we are collaborating. So we work very closely with the press. We have launched a media fellowship in 3 countries, Myanmar, Nepal, and Bangladesh. We work in providing a 1-year fellowship for journalists on cross-border reporting, as well as also on a 1-year reporting. And the Impulse model today is divided into labs. So the press lab is being led by the CNN newsreader who left CNN and joined us to lead the press lab, Mr. Kalmar Palzor. Why did we do that? I'm just giving you a little picture on here. It's because we realized that the media has the power, but they have to be sensitive and has to go with time, because media is changing every day. It's no longer just the print and the television, but we have the online media spaces as well. And do we always talk about sensationalized stories, or do we go beyond that? So in the last year now, it's been a year that our journalists has been working. They have to go through a huge process of getting into the fellowship, because the core committee from the 4 countries, we're launching in Bangladesh in next year, and it's media houses in the process with us. So if you go to our website, you can watch the video at this to look into that. Then the Impulse Case Info Center comes along with case management, a comprehensive database, a systematic documentation, a networking mechanism. I go back to that networking mechanism, how each one of you can be plugged in. Where do you plug in? It's only after you analyze and do a SWOT analysis of your own organization, of your strength, and where do you fit in. So when we talk about our technology platform, it came about when Indian Institute of Technology was given a challenge by Impulse that IIT in India is one of the big spaces of people who come out every year and past. So I went down to IIT as a talk and I said, hello, I have 1 million with me. Can you come up with a solution? And professors and students who were listening to that talk, they said, how do we go about it? I said, I don't know how you go about it. I will tell you the background, I'll tell you the content, I'll tell you why the issue is, and I'll tell you the challenge. Can you come out with a technology platform? Interestingly, they form an incubation, IIT Guwahati, and we utilized that money and came up with this technology platform that looks in terms of case filing. Why case filing? My personal experience in 26 years of work, change of leadership, change of management in every organization, whether the government or the NGO, constantly takes place, depending on the resources. 10 years ago, I might have networked with A in organization A. After 5 years, A is not available in organization. Then you reinvent the whole system. And you talk about, that case, remember 3 years ago, we haven't got prosecuted. Do you have the file? Each organization have different strength in the way they document. Loss of data, loss of information, overpile of work, not storing the data in the right place doesn't lead to prosecution. Similarly with the police. The other one is that the system that we offer here is basically, it's in the cloud, anti-human trafficking units work very closely to put the cases together. So it come out as a collaboration of the government. Interestingly, that MHA India is reviewing for a pan-India. Of course, it started with an Northeast perspective because I come from that region. But today it's interestingly that the review of the police of how they've used it in the Northeast is leading government of India to relook, do we take it pan-India? Because this system is also operational in Nepal, in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, not with the government yet, but it's actually with BRAC, our country partner, who's emerging this whole relationship. And in Myanmar, it's with the Anti-Trafficking Task Force, because we are there for 12 years now. So it allows sharing on a very confidential note. It allows weaving of your case. It allows case file to be stored in one place. It allows to create the cases because it's all systematic. The architecture is a client server. It's an online and centralized. It's an interface. It's based on feedback on the system. It has a security, point-to-point security. It has a password hash. So it's a three-tier system that actually allows organization to create moderators and to create users. So these users becomes the collaborative to the moderator of an organization in each zone that allow organization to network. So I think I have only one more minute. So this is how the networking happened. So I will not go into functionalities, but the software create heat maps, automatic heat maps of the cases that is being fed to really know what's happening. So you know in which zone what kind of services is being offered. It creates heat map of trafficking regions because of the cases that's insert. It creates also the heat maps of, so there are different heat maps, the route. It creates international trafficking routes. It creates the source, transit, and destination of cases. It creates, these are all based on how the power of the collaboration and partnership under using the same platform to understand trends from source, transit, and destination, the aspect of all the hours being taken care of, the services not provided by Impulse alone, but by all the partners that are in the same network. Beside that, even those who are not in the same network, we call them networking partners because they might not be in the system, but they're giving us the services. So these are how the recent cases that we had, Nepal to the Northeast to Myanmar and the Middle East. These were trends that the government of India wanted to understand how the route was being used. So it gives statistical. It gives trafficker suspected data and age. It gives the gender. It gives all the cases, so I will not go more. So these are all how it works. So what I would just like to conclude, that partnership, it's about collectiveness. Collectiveness is about leadership roles. Leadership role is about asking one very simple question. Are we here for projects, or are we here to end human trafficking? If we are here to end human trafficking, then collective resource engagement, skills, and engaging ourselves is an answer to end human trafficking, not competition, but rather going beyond competition, looking at each and ourselves, how much can we contribute and how much can we share the resources. Thank you. I know I don't have much for question, but maybe I can take one or, because I think 1 minute is going, so. All right, sorry. Yeah, please.
And I was so interested to see this ICIC network. In fact, PLAN also,
Yes, so PLAN has, because they couldn't take it forward, so they are going to go into
repatriation information management system, but these ICIC looks more comprehensive. So my question is, who are the users so far have been approved to use these, and who are accessing this network?
Okay, so the law enforcement, the anti-human trafficking unit, which is under the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, from 8 states are using it. Like I just said, it started with the Northeast and now only we're going pan-India. So the police themselves using it, A. Our partner organization who are in different states and different countries, and also the service providers who are plugged in. So we're going into phases. because when we started up, it was not taught in a very large scale for the whole country. It was taught up in a very, very different way. But right now, I know I have a list, but I won't have time. But you could go into our website as well to look at the partners. So just brief.
Have they given with specific password and login?
Yes. So what happened is they have to sign an MOU, which is called credentials, legalities. It's all the formats, unless the government of 4 countries who are working with us will not agree. We have to really go by that. 2, the administrator will issue, it's just like how a password, so it means you will send in, let's say, Justice and Care Bangladesh will be the moderator, signs an MOU with all the do and don'ts and all the legalities of cross-border countries thing, and then you are sending your details, who will be your users, and then an email will come to you that, these are your password, and you can change your password. Let's say another organization needs the same, but they're being reviewed what are the skills and the services they can offer, because we cannot allow everybody, it'll be jam-packed and you cannot really work. Next question is credentialities, safety are being taken into it, because right now NCRB and NIC are reviewing together with us. So we are talking about NCRB in the morning, just to let you know that under the new leadership at the MHA, we have Purnia, who's really, really dynamic as a woman person who's looking in terms of MHA, is looking at all the other elements, because our is compatibility to CNTS, which is being spoken in India, because it was developed together with them. So it has that, but the question comes back is, you and me cannot see each other's cases unless we decide to share. Because by law, in all the country after we have studied, not myself, but a team of very experts sitting together, we realized that country will not want their case to be shared unless it's being officially shared. It's called the window of sharing. So that is being taken into account. So if you plugged in and you say, I need to alert India, right now, because of these modalities of legality, you alert our headquarters, and then we alert the next A, and then the services, comes along and being monitored. Similarly, you can alert an AHTU directly. So alert will happen. Our phase 3 right now, what's happening with the ICIC is that we're using what we call the SMS app, because many police feel that they don't go to the computer the whole day. Then we also learn when we're working with Indo-Myanmar, because we work in Rakhine and we're working in different zones, what is really happening, the internet keeps dropping, at least the zone that I come from. So we're looking at what we call it, upgrading this entire process, which is ongoing right now, which is a heavy cost, in fact, of it. But it's looking at, if there's no network, how can you feed the case? And in the slight 1 minute, how can you send the case? So all these things are being taken into account. I hope it answers your question.
Okay, thank you very much for your very impressive presentation. But whenever you are also presenting the 6 P's and 6 R's, so I'm seeing that is as a practitioner, so I'm also implementing the project in West Bengal. More particularly, one of them is the very biggest, that is the trafficking zone in West Bengal, that is the southern part, the southern and northern Parganas. We see that during my implementations, we see that there are two sort of chain. One is that is the supply chain, that is the source area, and another thing is that is the value chain. Because we have very important another piece, that is the participation, and that is another very important piece, that is the retention. So this is the 3 things. One, this is a prevention, that is and another is that the value addition, and third thing is that the repatriation and the retention. So this is a very important part is why that is the trafficking is also happening, because in the intervention area, the source area, sometimes according to my experience is no value addition. That is the value addition, because every adolescent has some sort of that right, and whenever they are grown up, there is no chain of the value addition, to addition to the value, so that they can also grow up, and that value can support for the retention. And always that is the important part is the children are not getting the space for the participation. So that is my experience, I'm not the expert, but during my implementation, I'm just facing this kind of thing. And my request, if may improve, that is the participation instead of the 6 P's, maybe that is the addition of the 7 P's, and that is the retentions, maybe that is the instead of that is the 6 hours, that is the 7 hours. So this is my humble submission.
Thank you so much. Definitely, our hours has grown over the years of our journeys. I'm sure what you have suggested will also be part of our journey. And I surely would look into that. I truly agree what you just said, retention. So when you're talking about skill, I'll conclude because I know it'll just be impractical for me not to answer that question. When we talk about prevention for us, I'll just give you an important, cross-border work that we tried to do this time. So many have difficulties in India in sending back girls and women to Bangladesh. I think, we were just talking about that when you called me from Bangladesh, how we manage MEA, MHA, and all the government at all the levels to open up North Bengal as a central zone of repatriation. Interestingly, to prevent that the girls don't get re-trafficked from Bangladesh, the partnership we had with BRAC, to answer your question that we had over lunch, is that BRAC owns, what we call it, Arong, which is like Fab India. We've worked with Fab India for so many years. Impulse, that's a bigger story which you can have another day. We've worked with Fab India and many, many Anoki, and we have been working with designer house across the world. We're going to be working with Marks & Spencer very soon in terms of the larger context of our work to retain younger people today do not like to do what the mother is doing in their home because they don't see that as a value. They don't see that that's the in thing right now. So how do you recreate the retention to answer, in terms of skill set? Is the way we add value that today, it's a very interesting analysis that we already had, is that the younger team are very, very proud that the mother is out there, go to our website and see the videos of, you talk about Sonam Kapoor wearing our shoes, produced by their mother, or Jacqueline, Fernandez wearing, you just go to our Impulse Social Enterprises, how we are engaging that retention. That the plug-in from the younger generation using technology of how the mother was producing and how it's going to the fashioned world, which is actually a very collective thing, is also another way of retention and prevention. Because the age today, like I said, millennials have less, patience. So millennials have less patience, but they have great skill set, which is called the technology skill set, where you have to learn. So that's another angle of that. And I think I don't have much time anymore. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Agui is here, who's writing the book on anti-trafficking and who's just sitting out there. Asui, thank you so much for coming. She's writing this book on anti-trafficking in India, which you should meet her over lunch. And she's been following up on all the things. So I just asked her to be here. Thank you. She's traveled all zone in India, and she might share more views on the model and how we're working. Thank you.